Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the latest, hottest topics in the world of pop culture and sports. I miss you guys so much. I know, as you could tell from my content this week, I have been out of it. I've been dealing with a sickness since Monday. Actually, Monday I took the time to go out and see Fantastic Four, so obviously I could not do a show that day because my theater is an hour away from where I am, and it takes a whole day's trip pretty much just to go to the movies. And Tuesday I was pretty much out of it. I don't know what was going on. I had some type of sickness. I'm still not feeling 100% well today, but I'm supposed to get ready and work this weekend, so I've pretty much not been able to do a show all week. And there's no way I was going to go all week without doing a show, so I'm thugging it out and doing it with you guys. I've had this show written up for 3 days now, and I'm excited to get to it. We're going to be discussing my movie review for Fantastic Four First Steps. We're going to discuss after that some of the box office numbers that has been going on for its opening weekend. We're going to discuss Kevin Feige pretty much blaming Chris Evans not being present in Captain America Brave New World for the reason why the film did not do well. And lastly, we're going to discuss Jake Ferguson getting a contract extension from the Dallas Cowboys. But I thank you guys for joining me. I'm so excited to be back. I've been ecstatic to get to this show with you guys. I want to also thank you guys for the recent support on the podcast. The last couple of weeks, my watch time has been very high than what it usually was. When I originally changed my format up from going pre-record to going live, was in hopes of doing that. So far, I've somewhat achieved that goal. And maybe it might be too because I changed the name of it in the same span where I changed the name of my show. My watch time has been a whole lot higher than what it used to be. So I wanted to thank you guys for that as well. And with the repost stuff, we've been getting a lot of people's eyes on the show. Been getting a lot of comments, a lot of likes, a lot of subscribers. Just hit 200 last week, and I just want to thank you guys for your continued support because the future is so bright, and I'm looking so much forward to it. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's go ahead and start the show. Fantastic Four First Steps, a movie that I was not very much anticipated for in comparison to Superman. I was a whole lot more ecstatic and more excited to watch Superman in comparison to Fantastic Four First Steps. So going into the movie, my expectations were pretty much low. Obviously, I did not enjoy Thunderbolts, so I was looking for some of redemption, but I wasn't looking for this to be a whole lot better than Superman. Although, of course, I had to work over the weekend, so I didn't get to see it opening night and even opening weekend, and I saw it just this past Monday. So I've had a lot of people's opinions flirting around in my head about what they thought of the movie. You know, I got my trusty sources that I watched and their movie reviews. A lot of people seem to enjoy it. So I walked in and I was pretty excited to see what they pretty much were talking about. And I have it in my lower third. Was this the best Marvel film since Avengers Endgame? Ladies and gentlemen, I can wholeheartedly come to the conclusion and say it's possible. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to go, as I always do with my movie reviews, we're going to go the good, the bad, and pretty much my overall final thoughts. Let's start off with the good. We know Marvel has had a problem with VFX work in their movies, with CGI specifically in their last well, I can't say with Thunderbolts because there weren't a whole lot of VFX going on with that movie, but specifically with Captain America Brave New World, it's been pretty bad these last couple of movies that they've had. But visually, this movie was so far superior than what they've had maybe since Endgame. Every shot in the movie, from the space sequence that we've seen in the trailers, the VFX work on the female Silver Surfer, the world, just everything looked very, very good and very well made. Another aspect that was great was the story. I wasn't a huge fan of Franklin Richards being associated with the story to begin with, but he didn't really have a huge effect on the story. I mean, he had a huge effect on the story and the reason why Galactus was in this film. but he wasn't the whole sole purpose, and he wasn't the big focal point like I thought he really was going to be. The story was more focused on just the family dynamic of it all. The next thing is acting. I was very skeptical of Pedro Pascal, Reed Richards, Joseph Quinn's Human Torch, and they mostly were passable, and the acting overall was passable for me. Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, although he wasn't my favorite in comparison to the old one, I enjoyed this how he did it. Joseph Quinn, although he didn't have the type of demeanor as old Johnny Storm did with Chris Evans, because I just think he knocked that out of the park, I still enjoyed the way he did the character. I wish he still would have had some more funny and, had a little bit more cockiness to his character, but that's not what they were going for. They wanted this Johnny to have more meaning in his character than just being some type of guy who just, is just there and just making fun of people. He had purpose, actually had purpose in this movie, and I enjoyed that. The family aspect, done very well, which is something that a lot of people were highlighting going into the film, and I see why. The family aspect of it was done superb. Matt Shakman did a very good job writing the family aspect of the story, which is something that he was commended for in WandaVision, and he put it on display in this movie. Something that was good as well, the setting. The 60s vibes, the retro vibes, it worked for me. It really took us back to something new and something fresh. Didn't feel like something that we have seen before, like we have repeatedly in previous Marvel titles when it just comes to story, setting, tone, and things of that nature. This felt new, the retro 60s vibe, not set in the same universe as the current MCU is. I think they called this universe 838. They named it in accordance to Jack Kirby. I think it had to do with either the day he was born or the day that he passed away. One or the other. It was discussed in the film. But the setting was great. I enjoyed it, and I thought I was going to have a problem with the suits and everything, but it just fit the mold of the setting of the movie. And lastly, my all-time favorite part of this movie, Galactus. When they first reveal him in the section of the movie that they revealed him, I was like, this is just great. This outside of No Way Home. We just throw No Way Home away and the nostalgia with Green Goblin and just that villain. This was the best villain for me in the MCU, period. Just done super well. I'm just talking about from just the presence of him and the tone they had for him, how menacing. Because overall throughout the film, everybody knows that he was pretty much, what's the word that they like to use, where he's pretty much mellowed down a degree when it comes to power level, just so that, it's hard for the Fantastic Four to take on somebody as featful as Galactus, but just as the way the presence of the character and the type of weight he had in the movie and how menacing he was easily one of my favorite villains in the MCU just based off of that. Now, was he done well? Absolutely not. The ending of it was passable and the way they handled him was okay, but I'm just basing this off of characteristics. He gave me just the menacing vibes of Thanos, but it wasn't executed on a writing standpoint as good as Thanos was, because Thanos is the best villain that's been in the MCU, period. But Galactus was fantastic from the VFX work, the voice acting for the actor who done him. I think it's some innocent. I don't want to misquote the guy's name. He done a phenomenal job. It was just all around. I would rewatch this movie in the theaters just to see that in IMAX. That's how good the stuff was for Galactus. This whole film, I was just ecstatic. It was such a breath of fresh air from obviously the previous iteration we got in the old Fantastic Four movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer. It was just amazing. It was great. But of course, with the good comes the bad. And obviously this is a spoiler-free review. I I may go talk to spoilers at some other point just to get some thoughts on things that I like. I still haven't done that with Superman. I've just had a lot to do, but we're just going to be relatively spoiler free. The bad, which is something I look forward to in a comic book movie, but we didn't get it in this one, is not enough fight scenes. I don't want to burst anybody's bubble. If you were going into this movie expecting some fight scenes, you're not at the right movie. I'm going to go ahead and just preface that right now. But one thing that does come with that, though, I wasn't bored. I wasn't bored. For this to not have any I know this is probably a slight spoiler, but I'm just going to say it. There was 2 action scenes I can really vividly say the whole movie. The final sequence and the middle part. And both of them had to do essentially with Galactus. That's the only fighting we see outside of their little introduction, showing off the cool fight sequences and stuff they did to introduce the Fantastic Four. But that was one not for me. Just not enough fight scenes, which really is probably the reason why the visuals and the VFX work was done so well, is because they didn't have to push a lot of that money into the characters and using their powers in the fight scenes. So maybe that's the reason why the production budget was not as big as Superman, because with the visuals and stuff, I was sitting there thinking while I was watching the movie, I was just sitting there like, how is this not more expensive than Superman? Either James Gunn needs to hire better VFX artists, or just something's not getting done right, because Fantastic Four visual wise, VFX wise, was a way better shot movie than Superman by far. But just the fight scenes, not enough fight scenes for me. My last bad, which is not a horrible bad, but it's something we discussed a while ago when it comes to Galactus. The final act was short. Again, they watered down Galactus's power level, and it's very hard to write a story with the stakes that the film had and have an outcome for essentially the Fantastic Four, the protagonist, to become the victor in the battle. But that wasn't really the problem with it. I just wish it was drawn out a little bit more than what it was, because it was just so short. The film really, and I know this is not pertaining to just the final act, the film period could have used probably another 20 minutes maybe to give us an extra fight scene that we could have gotten earlier on in the film, and maybe just extended the final act just a little bit, and Matt Shakman and the directors and the writers not the directors, Matt Shakman's the director, but just the writers and the people just come up and extend the final act some, just come up with some different ideas. Even though they gave the Fantastic Four, each character, their own little time to shine in the fight, though. But we all know who, we're not going to discuss that because it's spoilers. One specific character gets more of the shine than others, but it wasn't a huge problem that I had. That was pretty much all I had for the bad. But overall, I can say, to answer the question below, was this the best film since Endgame? I have to say no, because there's only one film that it is only behind. It's number 2. I did enjoy, and I can say I enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home better than this. So since Spider-Man No Way Home, this was easily the best Marvel movie I have watched, and probably Marvel content period that I have watched. Again, that's not saying much, because I haven't watched the recent TV shows such as Daredevil Born Again, which is very sacrilegious to say coming out of my mouth, because it's as big as a Daredevil fan that I am, that I have not watched the TV series. But y'all know how I am about TV. I don't enjoy TV. But still, this is the best that they've produced since No Way Home for me. Way better than Thunderbolts. So much better than Thunderbolts. It was better than Captain America Brave New World. Better than the Loki TV series. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Just the list, y'all, we're not going to sit here all day. The list goes on and on and on. Y'all guys know the past movies that have come since 2021. This film was just as good. Now, maybe if this movie came out in the Infinity Saga era. I can't say that it's probably one of the best that they've made, but this Marvel has set such a low bar to the point to where it's easily to say that this film was the best that they've released since No Way Home. But because there was not a lot of action scenes, and the final battle was not the best, the rewatchability for this movie for me isn't the best. And I know a lot of people do not like the old Fantastic Four movies. Specifically, I'm talking about the ones with Chris Evans and Jessica Alba. We're not going to talk about the garbage that came out in 2015. We can all agree on that front. But for me, I can say I could possibly, depends on what type of mood I'm in, I might could watch the first Fantastic Four over this one. But that's just because of me. I grew up on that Fantastic Four movie. It's entertaining for me. I just enjoyed it. Most of the movie I enjoyed. I know just, VFX wise, it's not the best. CGI is not the best. And even the story, specifically the third act of the movie, it is not the best, but still. Rewatchability wise, it's kind of maybe on par with those movies. I just don't think this movie is that rewatchable because of the action sequences. It's the same thing essentially for me like The Batman. Even though The Batman was a great movie, but I found myself getting bored upon rewatching because I rewatched it in the theaters. So if I were to rewatch this Fantastic Four movie, I possibly could find myself getting bored at some point, some way, form, or fashion. But that's just me. So the rewatchability for this movie is not that great. But overall, go support the movie because we are about to discuss some box office numbers that were released over the weekend that I was very shocked to see. I'm very happy to see, even though I still want this film to do good. But y'all need to go see this film because with the news coming out going into its second weekend, Marvel might want to get in panic mode just a little bit. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good. It's the best thing that Marvel has released since 2021 by far. If this is what the future of Marvel could be leading into Avengers Doomsday, this is 100% a breath of fresh air. Now, I might be saying this too, and another reason why is we know the thing that is going on in Marvel when it comes to having your C-list characters and B-list characters as your main focal point in the universe. So me as a huge Fantastic Four fan, they are up there with X-Men as part of my favorite characters in Marvel, period, because I just love Fantastic Four, specifically Human Torch and The Thing. They're like one of my favorites. That may be a reason why I enjoy this movie so much, because I was able to finally get A-list characters in a movie. So we may just have to wait and see what Avengers Doomsday has to hold, because we have the mid-credit scene in the movie shadowing the future leading into Avengers Doomsday. And I found myself a little underwhelmed by the mid-credit scene because they didn't really show a lot, but still, we got to look at what there is to come. So we're just going to have to wait and see next Christmas. Not this coming up Christmas, but next Christmas. So we got a very long time till we get another Marvel movie. Let's see. 17 months. We got a very long time till we get another Marvel. No, take it back. We have Spider-Man 4 coming out exactly a year from today, July 31st. So that is going to be our next Marvel movie. But we have a very long time till then. Again, we got a whole another year till we get another Marvel movie. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I can't say definitively is my movie review for the Fantastic Four. Now, if you would like me to pretty much expound upon my ideas, go over like a spoiler-ish movie review to get some of the things that I loved and didn't like about the film, spoiler-wise, we can just discuss that at another time in another video. But that is my quick thoughts. Again, go see the film because we're about to get into some box office numbers and it's not looking so hot. So what did you guys think about Fantastic Four? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not like it? I want to know all of your comments down below. All right. Let's go ahead and move into another section when it comes to Fantastic Four. We already teased it. What were the box office numbers going into the weekend? Going into the weekend, specifically on Thursday night, The previews were amazing. The previews were beating Superman. And little me was kind of getting worried that it was possibly going to outdo Superman. Because I know on my last podcast that I made, I kind of thought opening weekend that Fantastic Four might do better than Superman, just because how poorly the international numbers have been for Superman. Well, I gotta tell you, Fantastic Four was pretty much suffering the same feats as Superman in the box office, but it turned out to be a whole lot worse. Let's dive right into it. By The Hollywood Reporter, Fantastic Four First Steps rockets to a solid 118 million US box office launch with 216 million globally. In a needed win for both Kevin Feige's Marvel Studios and the franchise itself, Matt Shakman's Fantastic Four First Steps rocketed to a global opening of 216.6 million, including 117.6 million domestically and 99 million overseas. That's a good start for a film series that's been long dormant and was never hugely successful to begin with at the box office. It's virtually on par with recent 220 million global box office debut, actually 225 to be exact, of Warner Brothers' Superman. Fantastic Four opened ahead of tracking domestically, like I said. Although on Saturday morning, many thought it could open to 120 million to 125 million based on a huge opening day gross of 57 million. However, slower than expected traffic on Saturday changed the landscape. Numbers could always lift again by Monday. The overall early performance of Fantastic Four, which is winning over critics and audiences, is welcome news for Disney and Marvel. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So there we have the numbers. So essentially, the Fantastic Four, in comparison to Superman did 100 and... Don't want to lie to you guys. I think Superman did 125 million domestically. Fantastic Four did 100 and what was it? Was it 18? Let me make sure. 117.6 basically 118 million domestically. So there's a $7 million difference there. And globally, opened to 216. Superman did 225. So those numbers were very similar. Although they pretty much thought with how heavy Fantastic Four opened in the box office on Thursday and Friday, that leading into the weekend, there was a good chance that Fantastic Four was going to beat Superman by a good and get to that 125, mainly even $130 million mark. That did not seem to be the case. And we'll save the comparisons for Superman later on into the conversation. But let's just go ahead and preface this. We can't really kill it based off of what Marvel has recently done, because we have to put this in two things. We have to remember that previous iterations of the Fantastic Four have not done well at the box office at all. Maybe this has to do a lot with it having the MCU tag behind this movie and not 20th Century Fox. But let's just remember, the movie the first weekend already outbeat the 2015 Fantastic Four movie that they did. I think it's already passed both, and do not quote me on this. I'm not 100% sure, but I can say that it's already made more than the original trilogy they did with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans in the crew, in Fantastic Four and then Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. It had the same type of baggage that Superman has. Maybe you can say it's a whole lot worse, but historically, Fantastic Four has not been the pretty popular franchise like the Iron Mans and the X-Mens and things of that nature. This is just it's hard for people to gravitate towards their films. Maybe it's because another thing is the movie has been these movies have been terrible to the public, to the point where word of mouth was so bad and nobody wanted to go see the film. I don't know. I cannot confirm that, because these movies came out well before my time. Specifically the first two. I was born in 2004. So I was really pretty much born, and I was not even 5 yet when the first two movies came out. Now in 2015, I still was very young. I was 11 years old. So I didn't know nothing about no media numbers or didn't care for that at that point. So that's just something we have to highlight. But overall, in comparison to that, and in comparison to your past couple films that you've done, you made $216 million. It was pretty good. Now, Captain America Brave New World did $180 million this opening weekend globally, if I'm not mistaken. But when we think about the baggage that Fantastic Four had in comparison to the state of the MCU and the state of the box office and the state of the movie theaters, not many people are going to go see the movies in movie theaters. And not many fans have been fans of what the MCU has been putting out recently. And having these numbers, summer blockbuster, we cannot compare it to Deadpool and Wolverine because you had two big hitters on the main screen in Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. So I think it did pretty good. Could it have done better? Absolutely. Because I think Disney was pretty much speculating it was going to do better because there was a whole lot of articles leading up into the opening weekend that were saying, man, Fantastic Four could possibly do better than Superman because guess what? People are already more MCU fans than there are Superman fans. And this many people came out to see Superman, there might be more people going out to go see Fantastic Four. So they fell well short of the numbers that they predicted. Now, they kind of did the same thing for Superman. They kind of thought the Superman was going to open to almost $280 million globally to begin with. That definitely did not end up to be the case. The things that we have to say now before we get into the comparisons to Superman, what is its legs going to be leading up into the second weekend? Because they're coming out with a stat right now that I can say that Marvel is possibly not going to be happy about. They are saying that Fantastic Four could possibly see a 61% drop going into its second weekend. Now, we have to wait and see if that turns out to be true. But if that does, that's not good. I don't know specifically what the second weekend drop was for Superman. I think it was like 52%. I think that sounds about right. 52%. To put into perspective, Captain America Brave New World, it experienced, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a 68% drop in its second weekend. So you have Captain America Brave New World in the same year. I can't compare it to Thunderbolts because I don't remember the Thunderbolts. I just vividly remember Captain America Brave New World. So Captain America Brave New World, 68% drop off. Superman, 52%. Fantastic Four is going to be in the middle, but towards the latter half of Captain America Brave New World. Because there is going to be essentially a 9 to 10% difference between Superman and Fantastic Four in comparison to only a 7% difference from Fantastic Four to Captain America Brave New World. That is not what Marvel was hoping for going into its second weekend. I am for sure of that. Now, specifically, let's get into the overall comparisons to the two. And here's a chart that I found courtesy of the Moonlight Warrior. If you could have told me going into the summer that Superman and Fantastic Four were going to have the same opening weekend almost, I'd laugh at you and say you're lying. But it's super true. Now, originally, I might have would have said that Fantastic Four was going to do better. But right now, Superman is taking the cake. Their openings, there is like a $7.8 million difference between the two. Superman definitely has a $25 million more budget. Tomato meter wise, Fantastic Four legs it out. Critic average, the same. Metacritic, better rating for Superman, same cinema score. The audience popcorn meter is pretty much the same. And that is the state of the box office right now for the Fantastic Four. It's going to be great to see what it's going to do going into the second weekend. I'm going to be out of town working, so I'm going to make sure when I see those tweets that I'm going to save them, and we're going to discuss them like we did with Superman next week on next week's show. So be anticipating that and be on the lookout for that. But ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about these numbers? Do you think Marvel should be scared going into their second weekend? Were you shocked that it didn't do as good as Superman? I want to know all of your comments down below. All right, guys. Let's transition into something that I kind of wanted to talk about last week, but I never got around to it because it was something that I didn't see on Twitter. I saw other people discussing it, and I wanted to put essentially my 2 cents on it, as always. But there was an article. I don't know if this was an article or an interview, or I don't know, essentially. But Kevin Feige was pretty much quoted saying that Chris Evans was mainly the reason why Captain America Brave New World did not do good in the box office. Now let's get to an article that was written by Forbes. Kevin Feige says Captain America Brave New World suffered from no Chris Evans. A new quote from Marvel head Kevin Feige on the fate of Kevin Feige on the fate of one of the only not great superhero movies of the year, Captain America Brave New World, has sparked a whole lot of debate over the course of the past day. Feige at a recent roundtable event discussed the issues with Captain America Brave New World and said it was the first without Chris Evans, as a reason it struggled. Perhaps not the only reason, but the rationale being described as blunt today, to say the least. I think that is a typo. He's not wrong. This is Forbes talking, which that's not the whole reason why. This is not to say that the new star and new Captain America Anthony Mackie did anything wrong, but he had not been set up to succeed in any capacity. First, he had his entire becoming Cap journey shuffled into a Disney Plus series, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that far few people. Sorry, my computer pretty much blacked out there. I think you guys are still here. Sorry for that. Let's start that back over. My computer was pretty much lagging there for a minute. So let's start over. This is not to say that new star and new Captain America Anthony Mackie did anything wrong, but he had not been set up to succeed in any capacity. First, he had his entire becoming Cap journey shuffled into a Disney Plus series, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that far few people would watch compared to a film. As it turned out, it was actually better than the actual film debut itself. Second, mental passing is just incredibly difficult, especially in this case. Yes, this is something that happens in the comics eventually, but in the context of the MCU, it's important to consider that Chris Evans, Steve Rogers was Cap 11 times over 9 years. Sam only appeared as supporting character Falcon during that time, and only managed 2 appearances as a new Cap across 5 years. All right. My computer right now keeps wanting to stop for some reason, so we're just going to go ahead and discuss what I think. I hope you guys are doing well on this end. I can't see if the stream's doing fine because my computer is pretty much stuck. But I have a problem with what Kevin Feige had to say. Now, to pretty much state on the record, he's not 100% wrong, because it is hard to make a movie like that when a character like Chris Evans was absolutely beloved by many people. Captain America is up there and was up there with Iron Man's, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. But I have a problem with Chris Evans being the sole reason why the movie failed. Because number one, it failed primarily because of the idea of Sam Wilson being Captain America. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. In the comics, and obviously in this movie, not a lot of people have been turned on to the idea of Sam Wilson taking on the mantle as Captain America. replacing a person that is the original character is hard to do. And you using somebody to take over that mantle and slapping their name onto them is hard to do. It has been the same thing for me when it comes to Black Panther. When it pertains to Letitia Wright's Black Panther, I will forever not look at it the same as I did when Chadwick Boseman had the role. It's just how it always goes. I could never see at the moment somebody replacing Robert Downey Jr. like a Riri Williams or something like that. It would not work. And it would not work with the general audience. So the same thing can pretty much pertain to Captain America. Nobody is going to replace Steve Rogers because Steve Rogers is Captain America. No way you want to slice the cake. Steve Rogers is Captain America. So when you're going in to make a movie like Captain America, Brave New World, having Captain America in the title and Steve Rogers' character is not present in the movie, you're going to have a problem. So this essentially isn't a Chris Evans problem. It's a Kevin Feige, a Marvel executive and creative decision-making problem. I don't even care if Bucky held the shield and the mantle of Captain America. This film would have just not done good. Because you got to understand, although you're making these movies for comic book fans, you got to think about the general audience in the same breath. Because when the general audience is thinking of Captain America, who are they thinking about? They're thinking about Steve Rogers. So when a little boy is looking at a movie and looking at the advertisement on TV, and he looks at his mom and says, "Mom, that's not Captain America. Who is that?" The mom says, "I don't know." And the kid's not going to be interested to go see the movie. Because who does the kid think Captain America is? Steve Rogers. And you see Sam Wilson as Captain America, he's going to think, I don't know who that is. If he's not a hardcore MCU fan. Obviously, if he's an MCU fan, go figure, he knows who Sam Wilson is. But again, we got to take that out of it and just think of a general audience type of lens. And even those who are MCU fans, let's think about it in their light for 1 second. It would be hard for them to go see this movie too. I primarily went to go see it because, hey, out of what I've seen from Marvel the last couple of years, this is probably one of the things that I've been most interested to go see. Because I've always been a fan of Sam Wilson's character. I love the idea of their two chemistry when it comes to Chris Evans is Captain America and Anthony Mackie's Falcon. I love their dynamic. Love it. And even the Winter Soldier, Sebastian Stan, I just love their three's dynamic. And Winter Soldier, Civil War, loved it. Even in the N&M game. So when I was going to go into seeing the film, I was interested, but I was scared because I did not know how Anthony Mackie was going to be in a role by himself when he isn't able to mesh with Chris Evans in the role. And it pretty much worked for me to a certain degree. It's still rough and tough to see him as Captain America and not seeing Steve Rogers as Chris Evans as Captain America. But it was passable for me. But it wasn't like that for the general audience because a lot of audiences didn't enjoy the film. And not only did they not enjoy the film, they did not think that, they didn't go out and see the film. People didn't think the film was good, and they did not go out and go see the film. Because it showed in the box office, and it showed in the critic scores. So that's essentially what it is. It's a bad, I think Kevin Feige, it's a bad look, and it's just, you're throwing shade, and you're just blaming Chris Evans for the reason why your film didn't do good. It's not a good look. Most importantly, I feel bad for Anthony Mackie because it's not his decision to be given the shield. At the end of the day, Anthony Mackie is an actor. His job is to act. Whatever decision they make with the character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're going to run it by him, and 9 times out of 10, they were going to say yes. So if Anthony Mackie wasn't going to be given the shield, he was going to be fine with it, and he was going to move on with his character as the Falcon. If he was going to get the shield, okay, fine, I'll adjust and I'll adapt, and I'll go ahead and go with the future as well. But I feel bad for Anthony Mackie because he pretty much got threw up under the bus. And it made it look like, and Kevin Feige made it look like, darn, maybe if it was Chris Evans, the movie could have been better. And you're pretty much delisting Anthony Mackie's Captain America. Like, oh, yeah, you're Captain America, but you're a knockoff Captain America. Yeah. Knowing we all already thought that, like me and the general audiences, and most people and MCU fans and fans of comic book genre already thought that, but your job is to at least heighten Anthony Mackie because we're going into an Avengers movie and we're thinking and we have the idea that Anthony Mackie is going to be the one leading the charge leading into Avengers Doomsday. And coming out and making this statement is not letting people know and audience members know that you're confident in Anthony Mackie and you're confident in the character. Because he is Captain America. And when you think about Captain America, you think about the number one component. What do you think about? Leadership. And with these comments, what is the potential future of Sam Wilson's Captain America? Because we already saw in an interview, and we discussed it in the last podcast, that they are flirting with the idea of recasting Chris Evans as Captain America. So when we're thinking about it, Anthony Mackie, Sam Wilson might be on a short leash. We're going to use a little baseball term here. When the pitching goes bad, specifically the starting pitcher, Chris Evans was starting the ball game. He pitched 7 shutout innings, gave up a hit. Brung in a reliever. The reliever was Anthony Mackie. He's struggling. But guess what? After Avengers Secret Wars, Marvel and Kevin Feige is about to bring in the closer. That, my friends, is going to be the recast Steve Rogers. And that's going to win them the ball game. And I think that was an absolute fantastic analogy by me, but we're not going to harp on that high horse. But I really do feel bad for Anthony Mackie on that type of front. Now, maybe I can say if this, I was something that when I was writing up the show, I was interested in this aspect of it. Maybe, and just maybe, if this film was made 7 years ago, pre-COVID, and during the Infinity Saga, I'd like to see how it would still work in comparison to the now, with the people not going to the movies and things of that nature. But still, just copping out Anthony Mackie like this and just pointing blame at Steve Rogers and Chris Evans for the reason why the movie didn't do good, it just shows you that you made a dumb decision in the creative process to make the film. And more importantly, you're making your actor look bad in Anthony Mackie. You're pretty much agreeing with what the general audience thinks of the decision anyways, and the character. Pretty much thinking, yeah, you're Captain America right now because you were the only option. We know the real Captain America isn't alive at the moment. Or, sorry, he is alive, but he's very old and just chilling with his, dealing with life after his wife passed away. But you're going to get replaced at some point, buddy, because you're not going to be Captain America for too long. You're the Timu Captain America. You're pretty much agreeing with the thought that many people already have. Again, I feel bad for Anthony Mackie. And Kevin Feige could have done a whole lot better. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's a whole lot more problems with that movie than Anthony Mackie. I really think going out of that movie, Anthony Mackie was more than likely the best part of that movie. Everything else around it sucked. Story wasn't great. Villain wasn't great. Harrison Ford was pretty good. He was another bright spot. Did not care for Danny Ramirez's Falcon at all. There's just CG. Don't get me started with CGI, VFX, and things of that nature, because it was not good. So there was a whole lot more wrongs going on. than just Anthony Mackie in that movie. But that's another topic for another day. What do you guys think of this news, of this article of pretty much Anthony Mackie copping out, Kevin Feige copping out Anthony Mackie and pretty much blaming Chris Evans for the reason why the film didn't do good? You know what? Chris Evans wasn't in the movie. That's why it wasn't good. Although Kevin Feige did say that there were more reasons as to why the film did good, but it's not a good look that he pretty much went ahead and just said, you know what? Him not being in the movie is the only reason why it didn't do good. Let me know what you guys think. I want to know all of your comments down below. I want you guys to forgive me for that segment, and I had to pause so much because my computer was sitting over here freezing as I was sitting here talking to you guys. I don't know why, and did not know if the stream was still going on or not. I don't know. I still hope we're good, and I still hope we're good to go. And leading into our last topic, we're getting away from some pop culture stuff, and we're going to end it off with some sports. Sports is back. NFL specifically is back, as the Hall of Fame game is tonight. I might be doing a little show later on tonight to react to the game. I have not reacted or done any type of reaction to a football game in like 6 months, so I'm pretty much excited and stoked to do that. So I might be doing that later on tonight. I'll keep you guys up to date on that as well. But earlier in the week, my Dallas Cowboys signed our star tight end, Jake Ferguson, to a contract extension. And let's get to the article to see exactly what we got right here. Cowboys break contract news, landing Jake Ferguson to a $52 million extension. On the morning of Dallas's first padded practice in Oxnard at training camp, the team has announced they have agreed to terms on a new contract with rising star tight end Jake Ferguson, who signs an extension worth $52 million in new money over 4 years. The new deal includes a $12 million signing bonus and $30 million guaranteed, as reported by NFL's Ian Rappaport. This is a historic one on the Cowboys tight end list, as Ferguson is now the highest paid in franchise history. His new annual average salary of $13 million ranks 7th in the NFL among tight ends. Ferguson's deal comes rather abruptly, as this is his first all-season eligible for an extension. Big Biscuit has spent 3 seasons with the club and has turned in a reliable security blanket for Dak Prescott as his career has gone on. In 2023, Ferguson earned his first Pro Bowl nod after a stellar season in which he brought in 71 passes for 761 yards and 5 touchdowns. All right, guys. So we know that Jake Ferguson is a very good tight end. A very, very good tight end. He's a very underrated tight end. He's a very underutilized tight end. He doesn't get the love he deserves. I remember in a podcast, the New Heights podcast with Travis Kelce, Travis Kelce went on to pretty much say, like, who is your favorite tight ends to watch and that can compare to your game. And he listed Jake Ferguson as one of those names. And even Shannon Sharp at the time, when he was on Undisputed, he listed Jake Ferguson as a very solid tight end. So he's a stud. And last year, he's coming off a very bad year. Obviously, Dak Prescott was not there to help him out with his targets towards the middle and latter part of the season last year, and he didn't have as good of a season as he did the year before in 2023 when he did get the Pro Bowl nod. And it was a great signing. It is something that we're going to discuss later, that Dallas should have done with Micah Parsons when he was eligible for an extension. Why wait? We know he's one of the best tight ends in the league. He's one of the best at his position. He's exceeded expectations because Jake Ferguson was a 4th-round pick. So why not go ahead and spend the money on him, get the extension, and not worry about having to pay market value? Because you got Jake Ferguson at a deal, at a bargain. You got him as the 7th highest ranked, highest paid tight end right now in the market. Now, who knows that he's going to get even lower as the years go by, because we know there's going to be more tight ends getting paid more money. And I know maybe David Njoku and Travis Kelce and those other big names, TJ Hawkinson, George Kittle Skittles, all those other guys are getting market. They're in that top 5, where Ferguson is sitting at 7. But right now, And I looked at the Madden ratings came out for the tight ends this just as of today, and I saw where Jake Ferguson wasn't even in the top 10. But I wrote this down in my notes, and I'm gonna stand by it. Can you guys name me at least 5 to 7 better tight ends than Jake Ferguson at his peak from 2 years, just 2 years ago? Throw away last year, rough year all around offensively, period. But can we pick 5 to 7 tight ends you'd rather have on your team than Jake Ferguson? I'll wait. Let's just go ahead and throw a few names out of there. Travis Kelce, obvious one. George Kittle, obvious one. Maybe TJ Hawkinson coming off an ACL, but we'll just give him the nod because we're going to throw him in some respect. Brock Bowers coming off a bona fide stud of a rookie season at the tight end position. We're going to throw him in there as well. There's 4. Maybe you could say David Njoku. Maybe he's hit or miss. Kyle Pitts, just because of he's nowhere near or had nowhere near as good of a season as Jake Ferguson has had, but you're just doing that based off of what he could potentially do. That is it. Those are the only tight ends you would possibly say in a blind ranking, in a fantasy draft, or period, or if you was a GM in an NFL position. Oh, throw in another guy, Dallas Goedert. Okay, I still don't think he's that good, even though because it's more than likely because I despise the Eagles, but he's a pretty good tight end. Throw him in there. That's still 7. And you might even take 2 of those guys out. You might could say I'd rather have Jake Ferguson than David Njoku and Kyle Pitts at the moment. Who would you rather have than Jake Ferguson than those guys? Jake Ferguson is very good. He has a Travis Kelce type of component to his game. And I wrote this down because it's very important. He needs better targets and better routes. Instead of him running as Mike McCarthy had him running these last couple of years, instead of having him out there running little curl routes, stick routes, out routes, flat routes, like give him a corner route, give him a post route, inside fades more because he loves that inside fade ball. Dak loves throwing him that ball, the fade up the middle. But give him a post, give him a corner, give him an inside in route, out route, something spicy. Every time he's getting a reception, 2 yards up, he's either getting a reception that was 2 yards behind the sticks, or he's getting a reception that's only 3 yards in front of the sticks. Why can't we get him a pass that's 15 yards of the field? Let him do some work, because when he gets the ball and when he gets on the move, he's very elusive. He's a shifty and worky tight end. Now, maybe he's put on some weight the last couple of years because he's trying to get a little bit more beefy, but he can wiggle a little bit. He can move. He's got a little movement on him. The guy is very talented. He's got respect from one of the best tight ends to ever play in Travis Kelce, and another one who is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Shannon Sharp. They have said, and it just came out of their mouths, that he is a very great tight end. And he just has not been given and paid the respect that he deserves because of who he's played for and the type of offense that he is getting ran. Because right now, if he played for a Philadelphia type offense, the way they use Dallas Goedert, or a Kansas City Chiefs type of offense, the way they use him, or even the San Francisco 49ers, who our offense should resemble in the San Francisco 49ers with the West Coast offense, or as Mike McCarthy tried to make it out to be, the Texas Coast offense. There's no reason why, with CeeDee Lamb having almost 2,000 yards, Jake Ferguson should have been on the verge of having almost 1,000 yards. I don't even know Jake Ferguson's numbers from a year ago. Let's just go ahead and see. Let's see his numbers from this past season. And we're going to get it right here. He only had 494 yards. In his rookie year, he only had 174 yards. He had 86 targets and only had caught 59 balls. Last year, he had 100 targets and caught 70 balls. And he had 22 targets in 2022, and he ended up catching 19 of them. So the man needs more targets. and he needs more yards. I want to see him at the 700. I want to see him at the 1,000-yard mark. And let's just compare these numbers right quick. Let's compare them to CeeDee Lamb. So keep in mind, his highest he has had is 100 targets. Let's see the target difference with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, look at the target difference. Jake Ferguson's highest targets were 102. CeeDee Lamb, 2023, had 181 targets. Last year, he had 152 targets. CeeDee Lamb barely hit the 1,000-yard mark last year. The year before that, CeeDee Lamb had almost 2,000 yards. You can't, and it's going to be even harder for Jake Ferguson going into next year to get these numbers because he is going to have to play alongside of George Pickens as well. So it's going to be hard for him to get the type of yards and the yards that he deserves. But overall, there's no reason why Jake Ferguson should not be one of the elite tight ends of the NFL and get 1,000 yards to be in the type of position that George Kittle is and Travis Kelce. He has the talent, and it is smart that the Dallas Cowboys gave him the money that he gave him, got him at a bargain in my agreement, the 7th highest paid annually right now to his position. You're extending him, so now you're going to have him for the next 5 years. Huge win. Absolute huge win. Great deal by the Dallas Cowboys. But right now, Jerry Jones, we need to get Micah Parsons done. Why can't we get Micah Parsons done? Why? Please tell me why. Why couldn't you have been this smart with Micah Parsons? What's the difference between him and Micah? What? You're scared to give Micah Parsons actual money? Because instead of having to give him a little puny $13 million, you got to give Micah almost 40. You have to now. You could have only gave him 30 a year ago, but you want to be naive and foolish. But that's another topic on another day. Jake Ferguson, great tight end, bona fide stud. I'm happy that he's getting his money, and I'm excited to see what potentially Brian Schottenheimer can do with him at his position. And plus, I'm excited to get some more details on Cowboys training camp in general. I'm going to keep you guys updated with that. That is all I have written up for today, guys. This is going to be my last show for the week, unless I actually go live later on tonight to react to the Hall of Fame game featuring the Lions and the LA Chargers, because they got some players that I'm interested to see. Trey Lance is going to be playing quarterback. You know, I had a whole little love affair with him last postseason, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly how the quarterback whisperer himself, Jim Harbaugh, see if he's done anything with Trey Lance. Obviously, we're going to get the running back that I was wanting originally in the draft. Instead, we got an offensive lineman. But anyways, he's going to be playing, getting his debut. Rookie running back Omarion Hampton, going to be getting a look at him too, and other players as well. So it's going to be a great game. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see how the night goes. I might go live later on tonight. We'll just have to wait and see. I'll make up my mind middle in about halftime between the game. But if not, guys, this is going to be my final show for the week. I will be back on Monday. I got to work again this weekend, but I have next weekend off. So you guys best believe next week we're going to get on the ball, and we're going to got our foot on the gas pedal ready to go. And we're going to have 3 shows next week. I promise you. I was going to have at least 2 this week. I was under the weather. Did not feel good. I still am not 100% today, but I had to get a show out for you guys today because it was super inexcusable right now at the moment to not at least do 1 a week. And I done that. But there's a whole lot of things I want to talk about. There's still some things that's been out in the last couple of weeks that I wanted to get to, specifically with Superman and things of that nature. But next week we're gonna have some stuff about Superman with it getting closer to 600 million maybe. We're gonna have the second weekend opening numbers for Fantastic Four. Gonna have some NFL stuff I imagine as well. A whole lot of things that we're going to get to next week that I hope you guys are ready for. Again, I want to take this time. Thank you guys for your recent support for the Alpha podcast on the Jayden Bryce Show. Again, with the watch time and the subscribers, I'm grateful. I thank you guys for enjoying the live format. And we know the ultimate goal in the future. Hopefully I can have somebody on the other side of me and I'm actually having a conversation with somebody instead of me talking to myself for a whole hour. But I got some things with that coming into the works. in the near future. And I'm excited for it because I am looking for a current partner to do this with, because it kind of gets old a little bit just talking to myself, specifically about sports. If I get a partner, it will be primarily for sports. But I'm in the process of doing that, and be on the lookout for that in the near future. But again, thank you guys for your continued support. If you guys enjoyed the show, do not hesitate to hit the like button on the show. Check them out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I have them pretty much up to date. Just got a few to upload, and I'm actually going to do that after I end this and wrap this up tonight. Check my shows out there if you want to listen with audio only, and you're able to just shut it off and listen to it as you're listening, riding in the car, cleaning, or anything of that nature. That's it, guys. Check the description below to check out all my other videos and stay up to date on those as well. And they're in those playlists. But more importantly, I thank you guys for joining me, and I love you guys so much, and I missed you guys so much. I hate I don't get to do this with you again, but I look forward to us meeting next week. Maybe tonight. We'll have to see. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.
It's not a game, it's a